some of you, but it'd be lovely to see if any of you who weren't here last week, would you just type in the chat where you're from? That would be nice, because you will have heard a little bit about the others. Go ahead, Diana.
Yeah, and just a couple of the fun logistics, which is the Discord. So you all have a link to the Discord, and there were a couple questions on how to use it. And this is an experiment Neve and I are doing because the last cohort we had, there was a lot of requests that or feedback around they wish people wanted more interaction with the other peers and to maybe create a community and network that extended beyond the training. And I completely agree with that. I think, especially in this world, we are all very niche. If you are here learning neuroanatomy and working on the cranial nerves, like you are in a niche. Not a lot of people do this. So it's really helpful to have peer support. We're all peers and colleagues, and once you all finish the training, we are peers with you. So I really wanted to. Well, Neve and I considered options, and we landed on Discord, which is a free app. And I'm part of a couple Discord communities. Some are very, very active, and some are not as active. And some like one that I'm a part of, it's a big group, but only a couple people are active on it. So this is an experiment. It's really your forum to connect with each other. That's the main intention. I'm going to try to be on there as much as I can, but it's really meant for you all to get to know each other, to share your wins, to ask your questions. Um, and also if you want a new category on it, just let me know and I can add a new discussion thread category. I just put up a couple basic ones. Um, and so I think all you have to do is have an account on Discord. It's free. And then the link we provided is the portal into our neurosoma nerdy category, nerdy group. So yeah, and then you can just use it as much as you want. Can you please reshare the link? Yes, I think we can. It might be in the original email, but we can send it out again for sure.
It was I can do it now, Diana, while you're talking. I can bring it up.
Great. Great. And hi, Jennifer from Kentucky. That's fun. I don't know if I've ever been to Kentucky. I'm in Michigan, so Detroit area. And yeah, the only other piece of logistic is Neve and I were chatting around about the chat feature, and I would love to encourage you all to use the chat and limit it to maybe times when there's questions, because what happens to me when I'm trying to get through some material is that if there's a question that comes in, I might get very sidetracked because that is my Vata brain, and then we might not get through all the curriculum. So if you
And it's
have,
also some people find when messages keep popping up that it gets distracting as well. So yeah.
yeah, so we'll always give time for questions. So you can feel free to type them out and then just paste them when the question times come. Um, yeah.
And if you just want to kind of connect with someone, like you've heard somebody say something, you're like, oh my God, me too. Maybe you type those in the tea breaks and then they can get that. But also, I meant to say, I need to get you guys to agree if you would like, if you're happy to have your email shared. So what I need you to do, unfortunately, is to actually email me with permission to share your email with the group. And I will only share the emails of those of you who've given me permission. But that's a really easy way for those of you who don't want to use Discord to keep in touch as well.
Yeah. And with that said, let's just take a moment and I'm gonna just invite you to settle. We'll just take 1 minute. I like to look out my window and take a couple breaths and put my hand on my body, just like that's very settling for me. But just take a minute and maybe you want to stretch, maybe you want to look at the screen. Just take a minute and make your transition to this uh, training. Hmm. I often encourage people to look away from the screen every so often, every few minutes, if possible, definitely every 20 minutes. Just, yeah, look away. It's not rude. It's actually very helpful for your system to not be staring at a screen for long periods of time. So, just know if, yeah, if you ever need to get up and stretch, if you need to like look around, I highly encourage it. Take care of your nervous systems. Hmm. And with that said, hopefully you were all stretching. Hi, I'm Diana. I know a lot of you, and a lot of you are new to me. Am a full-time yoga teacher since 2009. I've trained thousands of hours in multiple modalities of yoga, and I became a somatic experiencing practitioner as well. I heard there's a handful of SEPs on in this cohort, which is wonderful. And then I've also trained in applied neurology for movement, which is where I'll be sharing a lot of the cranial nerve work. And yeah, my hope of all hopes is just to encourage people and movement practitioners to be able to feel more confident working with a wider range of people. I work a lot with people who have chronic pain and mobility issues, and that was not always the case. So it's a skill I've really learned to develop, and this work in particular is so powerful. And when Neve asked me to help with her brain health training, as she mentioned, we just had epic conversations and it bloomed into this training, and I couldn't be more excited about it. And as a foundation of the brain-based work is the nervous system as a whole work. So you should have all listened to my nervous system lecture at this point. If you haven't, you might be a little behind on this stuff, but you can always catch up later, so not a big deal. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just get right in. Oh, I have to share my screen. Great. So this is a continuation of the nervous system work. And hopefully you can all see this. Yes. I don't know how I can make it. Oh, actually, can I make this big? I think it's big enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty big.
Okay, great. So we're going to spend about the first 45 minutes going through nervous system mapping, and then we'll take a short break, and then we'll do a more embodied practice. So in the lecture that you all watched, I talked a lot about sympathetic and parasympathetic branch of the nervous system and creating this window of tolerance, which of course is sort of an interesting term because it makes it seem like we should just be in our window of tolerance all the time and we should never bump out of our window of tolerance. But that's actually not true. In fact, there was a study done. Um, I wish I could remember who did the study, but they brought in meditators, like long-term meditators, and I'm going to call them regular people or people who don't have a meditation practice, and they measured their brain activity. And their intention was they were going to expose each group of people to stressful stimulus and watch what happens in their brain. And the hypothesis was meditators are going to have less of a, like, they're going to stay more calm when they are exposed to stressful stimulus. But what actually happened is, I'm going to see a little more of you. What actually happened is the meditators, when they were exposed to stressful stimulus, shot up way higher than even the regular people, but they came down much more quickly. And that the regular people, they shot up when they were exposed to stressful stimulus, not as high, but it took them a lot longer to calm back down. right? So often when we're doing these practices that expand or regulate our nervous system, we actually can become a bit more sensitive. We feel more, but we just are able to kind of come back and return a little bit more quickly as well. So it's not that we're never bumping out of our window of capacity. We just are able to return to our center a little more quickly. And we want and need our nervous system to be responsive to life. So this, what you're looking at in this image is the polyvagal ladder. This is going to be a review for some of you, and for some it'll be new, but it's based in polyvagal theory, which was envisioned by Dr. Stephen Porges. And this theory, right, it's not 100% fact, it's a theory. We're learning more about it all the time, but it's a theory that depicts kind of an order of operations within the nervous system through these different states of the nervous system. And they kind of, a lot of this work was done by observing wildlife, actually, animals in the wild who on a daily basis are exposed to life and death situations, yet don't really experience trauma. So there's this, a lot of the studies and theory on this come from observing wild animals. We are also animals. Um, and what we found, or what was found, is that at the top of the ladder is this space called safe and social. It's also known as ventral vagal. The term doesn't matter, but you can think of it as you're in this window of capacity. You're in homeostasis. Actually, I'm going to go over each one at a time here. So the safe and social state is within this window of capacity where as far as homeostasis goes, your organs and glands are functioning pretty optimally or in balance with each other. And you're going to feel, I have a lot of these images, like you might guess, safe and social. You're able to connect with people. You're able to have a little bit more, your frontal cortex is turned online. You don't take things as personally. You have a lot more choice with how you're responding. Um, I also have this image of like these two chairs by a fire. Like to me, just like these places and experiences where you're like, oh, like life is good. There's a really wholesome quality. I also put this image of a bird flying over the mountain, just like good, like safe and social is this like feel good state where you're able to connect with others. Yep. So if your nervous system neurocepts threat, the first order of operations often, right, and some people will learn over time, your nervous system might have a different learning, but the base is you want to respond to the threat with the least amount of harm to your physicality. So in the wild, the action to bring you back to safety with the least amount of harm is to flee, is to get out of there. You might need to use some energy reserves to run for a while. You might, like, there's a chance you might roll your ankle or trip on something. But overall, the safest option to get away from the threat is to flee the threat. Your likelihood of causing minimal harm is flee. So I just want to take a moment and you can type this in the chat. How do you think that this response influences your organs and glands? Let's say, yeah, what is going to happen to your heart rate? You can type it in the chat. Yeah, it rises. Exactly. Increase heart rate. What about your lung capacity? Yeah, the airways, the little branches in your airways dilate or open up, so you're taking in more breath. Yep. What about your pupils? Yep. Yeah, pupils dilate. So you're going to get that tunnel vision. You're taking in more light. Yeah, all the things. Perfect. Um, yeah, so I like emphasizing this because our nervous system, like flight, even the word flight is kind of a meaning, like, oh, getting away. But I want us to even roll back a little bit and just see as movement professionals, when we're in this state, what's physically happening to our organs and glands without needing to put a meaning on it. So when we're in flight, yeah, heart rate goes up. We're going to be breathing more. Our pupils are going to dilate. Your liver is going to be highly stimulated to, release some reserves like glucose, fast energy to use. And the idea is that you're orienting away from the threat. So what muscles might have what muscles are most likely to be activated in a flight response? Where is some of that energy going? Legs, limbs. What else? Legs is a big one. A little bit on the arms, yep. Feet. hmm Glutes, yep. Definitely, yeah. Glutes, the muscles of the hips. Also your pelvic floor, right? So I think that's one that can get overlooked. Um, your pelvic floor is going to engage. That's the driver of all of your walking. You have to your pelvic floor has to be engaged to walk and run and all that. Just useful information for yogis, Pilates instructors. If there's any physical like pelvic floor PTs in here, and there's chronically tight pelvic floor dysfunction, often it's said like sometimes it's a nervous system issue. If you're stuck in a flight response, your pelvic floor is going to be hypertoned. Could be. Okay. So, what thoughts and emotions might be reflected if your body and organs are kind of doing this thing where it's like your pupils are dilating, your heart's racing, your legs are like have a lot of energy in them. Like how might that drive your thoughts and emotions? What might you be thinking or feeling? Fear, urgency, anxiety. Yeah. Need to move. Yeah, exactly. Impatience, absolutely. Mhm. I'm also going to put this is a bit more subtle avoidance. Like avoidance can be a big flight strategy. Not going to do that. Yeah. Irritability could be there, but that might be a little more of the fight response. But also, like everything in that lecture, it's like it's all under this umbrella of nervous system. So, and we can be more than one thing at a time, right? It's very rarely we're in one solid state at once. Yeah. Okay, so we're safe and social. We detect a threat. Your nervous system is subconsciously, automatically determining the best course of action for the minimal amount of harm. And the first one in the order is to get out of there. It's going to cause the least amount of harm. Sometimes your nervous system determines that for whatever reason, getting away is not really available. So the next course of action is to fight, to orient towards the threat. And the fight response is also a high sympathetic charge. So all the organs and glands are functioning pretty much the same. Your heart rate's going up, your pupils are dilated, your liver's really stimulated, your airways open up, so your breath is you actually might be able to breathe a little bit easier. Mm, But rather than fleeing the threat, your nervous system has determined, based on other cues largely out of your awareness, that the best thing to do is to fight the threat. And of course, this has a greater likelihood of harm to it. Fleeing, you might have to run for a bit, you might roll your ankle, but when you actually engage in fight, there could be more potential for physical harm, but it's still considered the safest option. So, what muscles might be more likely to activate in the fight response. Shoulders, yes. Psoas, yes, I would say psoas is for both, but yeah. Jaw is a big one. Clenching your jaw, jaw tension. Yeah, you can kind of see this from the mama bear photo, right? It's like the jaw is a huge um, fight response energy. And so often, when people say, oh, there's like we hold anger in our jaw, it's not really true, but there also is some science there. If you're constantly having a fight response but suppressing it, like you might have some jaw tension, but I don't want to put meaning on like if you have a tight jaw, that means you have anger issues or repressed anger. Like that's actually it's not exactly this causes that. Um, Yeah, your pectoralis, arms, core, hands are a big one, arms, biceps. Yeah, a lot of energy in the arms. Legs as well can be activated in a fight response because you're probably going to have to stand up or run or push into something. Yeah. So, what thoughts and emotions might be driven. And by the way, I'm setting this question up, and this question will be sort of explored a bit later in the lecture. But what thoughts and emotions might be driven by the state the body's in when we're in a fight response? Anger, Mhm. Big one. Rage, yes. Survival, Yep, survival's kind of in all of them because, again, these are survival strategies. Yeah. Anger and rage, I would say, definitely are the big one. Another one I like to make sure to point out is the externalizing. So when we're in a fight response, this like it's their problem, it's their fault. They messed up. They didn't do it right. They did the thing wrong. Right? So there's a lot of externalizing your feelings onto others. So it's like putting it onto others. That's often a key thing where you're like, I think maybe they're in a bit of a fight response. And of course, if you tell that to them when they're in a fight response, it's not going to go well. So it's just something for you to note as a teacher. Yeah. Okay. So we're in safe and social, you're detecting threat, your system decides fleeing is not an option. So maybe you'll fight the threat, but sometimes you freeze. And when your system neurocepts a threat and decides that getting away is not possible, that fighting is not possible, the next order of operations is freeze, which is you have a high sympathetic charge, right? So all your sympathetic stuff is going on, but your parasympathetic branch is higher. Your parasympathetic branch overrides this high sympathetic charge. So it's like the gas and the brakes on at the same time. So this is where it gets a bit interesting and nuanced because how does this influence your organs and glands when you have these two systems that often are in opposition to each other at high, like both are on at the same time? Full gas, full brakes. So this is where it could be interesting. Like you might have really dilated pupils, but you might not be breathing heavy. Your liver might be working on overtime and your digestive stuff is going on overdrive. Everyone might express this a little bit differently, but it's a little bit more chaotic. And there's this sense of you want to fight, you want to get out of there, but you physiologically can't. You want to speak up, but you physiologically can't. There's this, your parasympathetic is overriding those signals. And so same thing, what like the muscles that are going to be likely to activate all of them, right? But in like all of your muscles might be activated, but there's this sense of like holding steady. So I think of this as a bit more isometric. A lot of bound tension can come into play. And as far as, so if you're in a freeze, um, what thoughts and emotions might be driven by the state that your body's in? And you don't have to guess this perfectly. Fear, yeah. Yeah, it can be scary. Shock, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of like dissociation, yes. That can be a big one. Numbness, withdrawal. Yeah, confusion and disorientation. Confusion and disorientation. It can be very confusing. And then this other one I want to highlight that Meg said is shame. So shame is a huge sign because, right, there's like, I want to fight, I want to say something, I want to leave, but I can't. That is often for many of us a recipe for shame. I'm doing it wrong. I'm handling the situation wrong. But what's cool once you learn about the nervous system is like, oh, I'm not choosing to do that. Like it's a physiological response that's happening automatically. And my system is, it's deciding that this is actually my best way to survive. So freeze is an incredibly helpful strategy to get through certain situations. So collapse, very different than freeze. Your system neurocepting threat, and there's right in freeze there's this high sympathetic charge but higher parasympathetic. In collapse, it's the theory is that it's just a really high parasympathetic charge. So there's really the sympathetic drops off and it's really just a high parasympathetic charge. So the organs and glands, rather than functioning, right, it's not, you're not in that window of tolerance. There's not this nice ebb and flow of like up and down, right? You know, the heart rate increases a little and decreases a little. It's really just your body starts to shut down your system. So it actually creates a very high amount of energy. Like you're using an extraordinary amount of energy to shut down your physiology to survive. So this is like in the wild when the mouse plays dead. And the theory in the animals is that like, oh, if I just play dead, maybe the predator will get bored with me or think there's something wrong and it'll just move on. And a lot of times it works, right? So it's seen as a really amazing survival strategy. The hope is that we don't stay there for too long. And this, what muscles might be more likely to be activated? Well, not many, right? It's quite a, there's a lot of flaccidity in the muscles. So when your body's in more of this shutdown state, what thoughts and emotions might be perceived by or like be driven by the state that your body's in when you're in a collapse? Isn't this a fun topic, by the way, y'all? It's like, whoa, okay. Exhaustion, 100%. I'm dying. Yep. Dread. Yep. All the fun ones. Depression, despair. Yeah. Dissociation. Yep. Yeah. Depression, apathy, lethargy, all the things. So we're going to go over one more and then we're going to take a little break. This one, the fawn response is really not on the ladder necessarily, but it's also a more modern understanding of another survival state. And fawn is actually a hybrid state. Here, there's often a high sympathetic charge, there's also a high parasympathetic charge, and your social engagement system stays on. Your social engagement system stays on. So again, how does this influence organs and glands? It's a bit more like, who knows? It could be anything. But it is considered a survival strategy. So again, we're not doing this consciously. People often say people pleasing, like that tendency to people please, the codependency, like I am safe when you are safe. I I put these images. It's like when your boss is yelling at you. I don't have a boss. I am my boss. But I've never had this experience, but I've seen a lot of TV where this happens, and I've heard that it happens a lot, where your boss is yelling at you and you're just like, mm-hmm. Like you kind of have to smile and take it. That would be more of a conscious example, like you're kind of choosing. But oftentimes, in relationships, especially if there's this sign of threat, it's like, yeah, you want to make sure they're taken care of and they're happy, and that actually aids in your survival. And it can happen consciously, it can happen unconsciously. And the um the muscles what muscles might be more likely to be active? Yeah. Anyone have a guess? Aside from like, all the potential of like the upper body, the lower body, the pelvic floor. What might be more interesting with this one? Yeah, facial. Yeah. A lot of the facial muscles are involved with this one. And it happens unconsciously. So it's so funny because this even happened like a month ago or a couple months ago. I ordered pizza. I ordered pizza and I went to the pizza shop and I was in the little shop to wait for my pizza to be delivered. And this man, he was it was like a young dude and super friendly, but like I was not in the mood to talk to anybody. And, I have tattoos, so this just happens like, oh, like they're like, he put his hand on my arm, like, what is that flower? And I was like, knee-jerk reaction. I smiled. I was pissed. I was like, you can't touch my arm. But I was like, oh, I rolled up my sleeve and I was like, this is a chrysanthemum, like, and I had this like, and I was like, afterwards, I witnessed myself or like I reflected. I'm like, wow, that was such a knee-jerk reaction. I didn't, it wasn't a conscious choice. In fact, on the inside, I was like, don't freaking touch my arm, you young punk. But this like knee-jerk reaction happened of like, this is what you want to know. Let me show you. So it can actually be, I'm like, oh, that was my fawn response, just kicking in to make sure this stranger stays happy and not mad at me. Um, so what thoughts and emotions might be driven by the state that your body might be in during a fawn response? I think this one's trickier, but fear. Keep the peace. Yeah, sometimes it really truly can be fear. Like you might be in touch with the fear, but often when we're fawning, a lot of people don't even know that they're scared, right? It's like it's sometimes it's very obvious, but a lot of times it's like I wasn't scared in that moment. But part of me was maybe, but I wasn't really connected super strong to the fear. But fear is definitely there. Yeah, keep the peace, please the other person, competing impulses, absolutely. Yeah, a sense of I don't care that could absolutely be present. Yeah. Yeah. One more thing I will share about this one, and this is hard to swallow a little bit, but I think it's an important aspect of the fawn response is lying. Often we tend to lie and that's part of the self-abandonment, even if we don't have a conscious awareness we're doing it. Some people do, some moments we do, but some we don't. But often fawning is you like lying is pretty prevalent, even like white little lies. So right? Because you're just trying to make sure the other person thinks or feels or whatever. So it's very common to lie and not even know it. Like, oh, I'm totally happy. No, I really am happy. No, I'm not upset at all. Yeah. Yes. So fawning, it's hard to say, but yes, I believe it's more common in females. We're so socially conditioned to caretake, but we also have some physiology. Estrogen, of course, is a bonding hormone. So we actually get more, like more hormonal hits from taking care of others. And that can also encourage this, like, oh, like I need to take care of people. And it can be an easier and a more learned strategy. There's also, of course, like generations and generations of history of women surviving by appeasing and fawning um, to men and others. Would this also be bypassing? I think that is a larger discussion, and so I'm just gonna say no, like overall no. Bypassing is a different thing, but I think would be a really great discussion. Yes, yes. So childhood experiences absolutely impact all of these, right? So like your child, what happens in your childhood, how your caretakers take care of you or not take care of you. Like this is all imprinted in our nervous system. And what I want to really emphasize in this lecture is the physiology of it, right? So our physiology drives our thoughts, our feelings in so many ways. And as movement professionals, as we're moving through classes, sequences, it's not that we don't ever use, like we're in a yoga class, for example, we use the sympathetic branch of the nervous system all the time. We use the parasympathetic branch of the nervous system all the time. We can't not be using these. So, this is a lens which I love to have as a base for this training, just to give us this awareness of, like, oh, deep breathing is calming for the nervous system. These blanket statements, which, like, on some ways, a deeper breath might have more of a parasympathetic, like you might be activating, especially on those exhales, the parasympathetic branch of the nervous system. But if your system is detecting threat, that parasympathetic might actually bring you into a shutdown or a freeze, right? So it's not quite as simple as, oh, yoga is great for the nervous system, or a deep breath is great for the nervous system, or this or that. Like what I'm trying to offer is just a little bit more of a nuance. It's really our relationship to our activation, to our deactivation. And that's what I think we can begin to build our capacity with. Yeah, so I'm gonna stop my screen share for now. And I would love we're gonna go into a practice to feel a little bit of this. But before we do that, I think just taking 4-minute small groups, and you can sort of discuss amongst yourself, like something you took away from this, something that surprised you, or something that landed in a new way for you, just like what comes up for you. Because this is kind of an intense thing. I tried to go through it fast, but it can be an intense topic. So it's nice to debrief with your peers around what came up, and then we'll do an embodied practice. So let's do breakout rooms of
How many people would you like in each room, Diana?
three or four.
Cool. So that's 20 people. I don't know, my maths. What is wrong with me?
I think
Thank
5.
you. 5 rooms. I know that there's some people who may not be able to join the breakout room. So if I see that someone hasn't joined and somebody's on their own, folks, I'll just shift you over.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say before they join? Tara?
No, just if you're watching the recording, I would just take a few minutes to journal. Right.
No.
So I would love just to spend a couple minutes if anyone wants to share what you talked about in small groups, either with your voice or type it in the chat. We'll just spend a couple minutes there. Also, questions are welcomed as well. Insights or questions?
I'll speak if that's okay.
Yeah. Hi, Caroline.
The main thing of our chat was, for me anyway, as well, was fawning. I've never heard of it. Never heard of that. I knew the fight, the flight, the collapse, but fawning is totally new to me, a total eye opener, and it's fascinating. That's basically what I think our whole chat came out as. We're all. That's the first time I said I've ever heard of it, so that's my input. Thank you.
Well, I just opened up a whole can of worms to your life because now you can see it.
Oh, yeah.
Ree, go ahead.
I had a big awareness. My husband is the nicest guy you'll ever meet. He's a total pacifist. He's a big mush, but most of his behavior is fawning. And I'm weepy because it's like, and I can see where he got it from his family, from his lineage, and his, that how that passes down and translates and transcends. But wow, is my empathy and compassion for him so much more understanding. It's really beautiful.
You
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah. That's what I hope seeing the lens of the nervous system can do for us is like open up the doors of compassion.
And we were just sharing that when you guys were in the breakout room, that I have a daughter who's very here in her nervous system since she was born, and very triggering, very much in fight mode. And that sentence that Diana uses, that when we're in a sort of more regulated nervous system, we have more choice as to how to respond. And that's how I parent her with compassion, is seeing that she has less choice than she might if her nervous system was in a different way. Yeah. Lovely to hear, Ree. Thank you.
Anything else? Great. So I would love to share one more slide and then we're gonna take and then we'll just move to the floor. We might take 5 minutes to move to the floor if you wanna have a bio break or get a sip of water, that kind of thing. This bit, where is it? This is not a trauma training, but I can't share a nervous system lecture without mentioning trauma. And there's actually no universal definition of what trauma is. So I'm just going to share what I learned from as a somatic experiencing practitioner. So, because different organizations like the American Psychological Association has a different definition, there's different diagnostic definitions and all sorts of stuff, but so there's no universal definition of it. But trauma from a SE or somatic experiencing lens, which is where I'm trained, is focused on how it shows up in the nervous system and how that dysregulation impacts your life. Trauma may begin as acute stress from a perceived life threat or as the end product of cumulative stress. So acute stress from a perceived life threat, I often think of this as like, yeah, you get a surgery and your body experiences trauma, or you get into a fist fight or something, or a car accident, or something that's like, oh, you can point to it. Like this thing was an acute like thing that happened once. That was like, I felt my system perceived that as life threatening. real or perceived. Okay, that's really key in this lens. Or as the end product of cumulative stress. So that's another way to say that is death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? Or like walking in this world that is, we're walking around a world and we don't have healthcare, or there's like these little microaggressions that happen all the time, or you had a complex childhood, or like these things where it's like not, you can't really point to one thing, but accumulative over time that shows up as trauma, can show up as trauma in the nervous system. This perspective also shows that like the same thing, like I might have, if I trip and fall, I might actually have trauma like in my nervous system from that fall, but somebody else might not, right? So there's the content doesn't matter as much as what, like the imprints that are held in the nervous system. Okay. And so the definition in the somatic experiencing world is that it's anything that is too much, too fast, too soon for our system. So anything that's too much, happening too fast, or it's too soon for our nervous system, that can leave an imprint of trauma in our system. Or vice versa, which is like too little, too slow, too late, right? That can also leave an imprint of trauma in our nervous system. And when I say trauma, like, so in the polyvagal ladder, there's like this order, like we perceive a threat, we can just leave. When the threat's gone, we come back. Or like we fight, we flee, we can't get away, but then we fight and then we return back to our safe and social, or whatever it is. Like we're always pendulating, that's normal. Trauma often keeps us in survival states for a lot longer. Another way to say that is it sort of shrinks that window of capacity so that a little bit of activation, a little bit of sympathetic charge will bump us up into that fight or flight or freeze or shut down quite a bit faster than somebody else who hasn't had the type of trauma that lives in your system. Right? So it's a learned response, and our brain is so highly adaptive. So a strategy that worked once, like let's say you, I don't know, when if you were a kid and you had a parent that was yelled a lot and you learned to freeze, if your parent yelled a lot, like your system is like, oh, when there's threat, freezing really got me through that. So now your system might just jump, like it might not go in order. It might just kind of go to what it knows best, right? So it can be like a learned behavioral state. But the cool thing is your system can also shift and change, and we can resolve some trauma. And what this training really does, we're not resolving trauma in this training, but really we're working with the nervous system and increasing safety, lowering the overall level of threat in your nervous system. And that can have such a profound impact to maybe get people back in their window of capacity to have more choice. So this training isn't really about resolving trauma, but it is about creating safety in the nervous system. So with that said, how does this show up as yogis, movement people? I would love to lay down on our mats. If laying down on the floor is not good for you, you can lay down in a bed or on a couch. That would be great. And if laying down is like, you're like, I absolutely just don't want to lay down for whatever reason, you can try to improvise sitting or standing. That could also suffice. So you can choose. I'm going to teach it from the ground. So let's take 5 minutes, set your mats up, use the restroom, get a sip of water, and we'll meet on our mats. We are almost back. So if you are arriving back, no rush. I'm gonna offer a place to start either laying flat if that's better for you, or if you want to choose a supported back bend, supported fish is going to be a great setup. So if you have blocks, you can do this. If not, you can just lay on your back or you can choose a different position. But if you do have two blocks, you can set them up one on the flat setting, one on the second setting. The second setting will be your head. The flat setting will be your upper back. Oh, should we hit record? Oh, it is recording. Great. Maybe we can stop. Anyway, so if you have your blocks, your butt will be on the ground, your upper back will be on one block, and your skull on the other block, and anywhere comfortable with your arms and legs. Again, you might choose just to be on the ground or have your blocks a different setup, but it's a nice supported back bend. Of course, if you have any pain in the low back here, you might add a blanket fold under your butt. To the best of your ability, let it be comfortable. Yeah. Just kind of check in. Is there anything you could do to make yourself 3% more comfortable? Yeah. And again, if this is a little bit confusing, one block under the shoulder blades, one block under the skull. And if that's not comfortable, just lay flat on your back is great. Yeah. And just take a few moments. Maybe you're going to notice your natural breath. Maybe you'll notice the ground underneath you, the physical contact of the ground under your body. Maybe you'll notice some sounds happening around you. Just taking a moment to connect to the present moment. This posture, this open-hearted posture, can, for some people, when your nervous system is perceiving more safety, can feel really open and safe. It can feel really connecting. You can be in this safe and social experience. But if your system, for some reason, is perceiving threat, this posture might feel different. The posture does not create a state in your system, but it's information your system is receiving. And your brain is processing, am I safe? Or is there a potential threat? So to the best of your ability for the next 5-10 breaths, about 1 minute, maybe 2, just do what you need to feel good. Yeah, maybe you're going to roll your head side to side. Maybe you're going to close your eyes or open the eyes. But picture something or look for something that's pleasant in your body or experience. Take about 3 more breaths. On your next inhale, go ahead, reach arms up overhead, stretch legs long, take a full body stretch. Open mouth, exhale. Great. And then lower your arms. If you're on your blocks, you're just going to roll to a side, remove your blocks, and then lay flat on your back. You can just set the blocks aside. And of course, if you need a little pillow or anything, you're welcome to do that. But just lay flat on your back. Yeah, and then bend your knees, feet a little wider than your hips, arms kind of wide like a T shape or cactus shape. And as you inhale, let your knees drop to the left. And as you exhale, return knees to center, like windshield wipers. Inhale, knees to the right. Exhale, back to center. Inhale, knees to the left. And exhale, center. Inhale, knees to the right. Exhale, center. So keep going. Maybe your pace is faster or slower than mine. Maybe your breath pattern is different than mine. That's all fine. Just let your knees rock side to side. And the next category, step on that ladder, is flight. And as we know, flight is a sympathetic charge. And often it includes movement of the legs. Right? So this movement, rocking the legs side to side, when feeling safe, can feel really great. And for some people, it can be it can feel like a bit of a flight response. Take a few moments. And the next time you land in the middle, pause, feel free to adjust your hips. And just lift your feet up to the sky, roll out your ankles. You can have your knees bent if the legs don't straighten too well, but just roll out ankles. So the flight energy often shows up in our legs, our feet, our pelvic floor. Working with this area of the body can be really nourishing. And for some people, it might be challenging. Bend your knees, feet on the ground. And take a deep breath in. Again, open mouth, exhale. Lion's breath, deep inhale. Open the mouth wide, stick your tongue out, roll your eyes back. Bare your teeth. Great. And softening. Yeah. So the fight response is next. So lift your feet up. Take your hands by your side. This is going to seem like not yogi to do, but we're going to do it anyway. And we're going to have a little bit of a temper tantrum. So hopefully your pets are okay. Exactly. You're going to start, you can take your hands into fists and kind of put the fists on the ground or slap the ground, shake your feet. You can scream a little bit. Keep going, about 15 more seconds. Have a little temper tantrum. Slowing it down, slowing it down, slowing it down, and resting. Track the feeling you got, the energy in your body. right? So the sympathetic energy, we're using our arms, our shoulders, our jaw, our voice, our legs as well, our core. For some people, that's going to feel really fun, playful, powerful. For some people, that's maybe going to be a little too much. It's your relationship with the sympathetic. And we can build it in time. So now roll to a side, tabletop pose. Isn't this fun? So plank pose. I'm going to recommend forearm plank just to give the hands a break. So you can be on your forearms and you can walk the feet back. Of course, you can choose to have the knees down as well, or just hold a plank pose. We're going to hold plank for a little bit. And of course, in your plank, you're going to activate your thigh muscles, your glutes. You're going to push the forearms down, engage the core, and we're holding it, right? So these isometric holds can, when we're detecting safety, can be really powerful. And when we're detecting threat, can be a little freezy. It can mimic this freeze energy. We're just going to hold it for a few moments. 5, 4, 3. I'm not doing it so I can count better and not lose track of counting. 2, yeah. And lower your knees down, tabletop pose. You can come up to the hands. Yeah. And then just kind of give a couple moments, left foot back, take some arm circles with the left arm, just kind of moving in a way that feels good. They could be big circles, small circles, doesn't matter. Let it feel good. And switch sides, left hand down, left knee down. Right foot back, arm circles with the right arm. Big circles or small, doesn't matter. Just let it feel good. And we'll land in a seated meditation. So you can sit on a block or bolster or chair. If you prefer to lay down, that's great too. Any comfortable sitting pose. And we'll just sit for a minute together. You might choose to close your eyes. Meditation or sitting pose or shavasana can be the most blissful state for so many of us. But if your system is detecting threat, it can often feel or look like a collapse. The shavasana might, depending on if your system is perceiving safety or threat, it might be a very different experience. Just kind of taking a few moments sitting or laying down in your meditation. Take 3 more breaths. Just noticing, what do you notice in your physiology or your emotional state or your mind? Like, where are you at? No judgments, just observing. And take 1 more breath. We let it go. So you can open your eyes, reorient to your space. Feel free to jot down any notes with that, and we're going to return to our class position. Just wanted a short embodied practice of those states. My intention is to really show movement teachers that the postures it's the postures we work with sympathetic, we work with parasympathetic. We work with areas of the body that are associated with different survival states too. And in my opinion, one of the best things we can do as movement teachers is lower the overall level of threat and build relationship with the sympathetic, build relationship with the parasympathetic, and offer so many choices because we really don't know how someone is experiencing a posture. We just don't know. So offering choice can be a really great way to help create overall level of safety, offering more choices. And of course, there's going to be those people who are like, oh, like too many choices is threatening to my system. So if you're noticing that, you can just be like, just do this, right? Like sometimes being more directive can, for some people, feel like a bit safer. So when we're building relationship with our bodies, our body, our nervous system, right? There's these two-way tracks, right? From the brain, we're going to the body. Like the nervous system, the brain is communicating and asking so many things of the body and directing how our organs and glands are functioning. But then we have these sensory nerves, this 11 million bits of information coming in through our system, including what pose we're in, including, in our classes, like, are we in a supported fish? Are we in a forward bend? Like all this is information that's going up to our brains that's going to help determine our level of safety. And these afferent signals, these sensory signals that are going up, drive our thoughts, drive our emotions. For some people, affirmations are this incredible thing, and I love when affirmations work for people. But for a lot of people, affirmations like, oh, just be calm, just calm down. If you're feeling activated and you're like, I'm just going to and your brain is telling you, just be calm, just be calm, just be calm. It doesn't often work for a lot of us because this sensory information might be so strong that we're not physiologically capable of calming down, and the brain telling us to calm down is not really effective. So in yoga and movement, what we can really do is work on shifting our sensory inputs and maybe creating more conditions where the brain might feel safer, and then calmness is just more of an effect, right? So that can be a way to work with this. And what's cool, I'm going to share my screen again, right? So just like in the nervous system lecture, like yoga, chitta vritti nirodha, like yoga is the quieting of the mind. And then we connect with our divine essence. But most of the time we're living in our cyclical, like our thinking brain. Our thoughts are a huge portal to our nervous system, to understanding what state our nervous system is in. So I do work with a lot of people who have trauma, and just like in conversation, not everyone has access to like, how's your body feeling? Like, where do you feel that in your body? Like sometimes we just don't know. Like I don't know. And that's so normal. And so we are going to work a bit on these somatic channels. Like, what are other ways to understand what state your nervous system is in? So you just have this a bit more tools to access like where your state is. So I'm going to share my screen one more time. Actually, probably not one more time. So I'm taking this directly from my really good friend, Veronica. This is her acronym that she teaches. It's not what I learned. There's different acronyms of somatic channels out there, just for reference. Like Dr. Peter Levine uses CYBAM, which is a different, and Kimberly Ann Johnson uses TIMES. My friend Veronica created Pelvis, and it's my favorite one. I am biased because I love Veronica. But it also is like makes the most holistic sense to me. So somatic channels are essentially different lenses in which you can try to get to know and understand your full experience. So the first thing in pelvis is pleasure. Now, that for a lot of us can be actually an activating word, like, oh, where do you feel pleasure? A lot of us are like, oh, pleasure is bad, pleasure is earned, pleasure is dirty. Like what, like we might have some stories behind experiencing pleasure. But what I'm talking about here is um, it's what sensations are pleasant. And when you're in, if you're in a survival state, you really don't have much access to pleasure. So creating a pleasure practice or like looking for the small ways that are feeling a little bit more pleasurable can be a way to show your system that you're a little more safe. Because if you remember, we're receiving 11 million bits of information every second. We can only consciously observe about 40 to 60 bits per second, and we have a negativity bias. So often, if we're um, focusing on something negative, that can create a positive feedback loop with negative consequence to it. So if we're like, oh, my shoulder hurts, and then I'm like, well, then you just start noticing your shoulder and you kind of get this tunnel vision around your hurt shoulder and you become less aware of all the other things that are actually doing okay. Like my other shoulder actually feels a little better than this shoulder. So pleasure is really just a way to orient towards what's already safe in your nervous system. What's already oriented towards safety in your nervous system. It doesn't have to be this big ecstatic, like, I feel so blissful. It doesn't, it could be that. And if you can get there, please do. But for a lot of us, it's like, oh, my hips are on the chair and like this cushion's really soft. Or if you've ever like taken your bra off at the end of the day, like, oh my gosh, so great. Like, take a moment to enjoy that. Um, my big one in the morning is drinking my morning coffee, and I'm like, I'm gonna smell the coffee. It smells so good. Like, show your system, orient yourself to what is already pleasant, what's already safe in your nervous system. And that can be enough just to sort of get you back into that window of capacity. Look for what's feeling pleasant. So the next lens or channel, right? Pleasure is a channel. You can always, let's take a moment, look for what's feeling pleasant. Another channel is your emotions. Like, what are you, what emotions are present? Are you feeling happy right now? Grief, sad, angry, joy? Like actually becoming more aware of like the different flavors and lens and nuance of your emotional state can be a really powerful channel into your physical experience, because emotions, of course, are felt in the body. Who here has thought a lot about their emotions but not actually felt them? Anybody? Just me? I can think about my sadness all the time. Very different from going into my body and feeling the physicality of sadness, the heaviness in my chest, the like sometimes I'm like, I don't even know what I feel. I just know I'm sad, but I'm not gonna try to think about it. I'm gonna try to feel it in my body. So that's a channel. What emotions? What emotions am I feeling? The loud channel, I think it's really cute because it's loud because it's often the loudest channel for us, which is our thinking. It's our chitta vritti. It's like our mind chatter. So what I like to do, and I'm gonna have you all, we'll just do, you can actually draw this, or you can imagine it. So get out a piece of paper, and I want you to draw a stick figure. Very advanced, okay. And then, or imagine, and I want you to draw a thought bubble. And sometimes when I'm working with the loud channel with people, like if they're only, if I'm like, oh, like what feels good in your body? And they're like, well, my shoulder hurts, so I can't feel anything else. I'm like, what emotions do you feel about your shoulder? They're like, it just hurts. I don't have an emotion about it. Like, it's just hurts. I'm like, okay, so what are you thinking about that shoulder? And then what will often happen is, well, I used to figure skate or no, I was a hairdresser and I'm constantly like blow drying people's hair and whatever, like they have this whole story about how their shoulder got injured. So what I'll have them do is sometimes imagine a thought bubble. Like, okay, put your thoughts about your shoulder in this thought bubble. This is where it gets a little more abstract, and you can say just, this is an example, and then we'll do it together. It hurts. I just wrote, it hurts. I put an S there, right? And so then I'll have them like put the thoughts in the thought bubble. And then I maybe will notice like, what font are you using? Is there like anything else in that thought bubble with like, is it one word? Is it 1,000 words? Like just to give them a little more texture or a different way to relate to the thoughts where it's not really about the story, it's more about the quality of the thought, right? Because our thoughts are such a portal and we usually have access to thoughts. So it's some kind of creative way to just like, are they really fast? Are they sharp? Are my thoughts really slow? Are they really fuzzy? Like like, are the words, oh, my words are angry or more urgent. Oh, my words are like more confused, right? So it can be a way just to kind of expand and get to know your thoughts more. So thoughts are an amazing somatic channel to explore because we often have access to them. Visuals is another somatic channel. So that could be memories, right? That's often like we're replaying memories or we're like planning things. Like that can actually be a vision, symbols, archetypes. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this in the thought bubble, like I'm like, oh, is there an image? And they're like, yeah, this like crazy scribbly line is behind the word hurts or whatever. I'm like, oh, it's like now there's an image there. Some people don't have access to many images, right? Impulses is another somatic channel. I have an impulse to punch that person in the face. I have an impulse to just doom scroll on my phone and just disconnect right now. I have an impulse to cry. I have an impulse to spit. I have an impulse to, like, I don't know, like itch my skin, whatever it is. Like, it's like, oh, do you want to do something? Is there an impulse in your body? It's not really a thought, but if you check in, you're like, oh, it's like this feeling, like my body wants to do something. Is there an impulse? And then, of course, sensation. If words are the language of the mind, sensations are the language of the body. And often the loud channel is the loud channel because we speak and use our words all the time. Sensation is not often we don't often have a robust sensational dialogue with our body. So it's something we can practice. And I would love to spend, yeah, we'll try 3 minutes. We might have to go more. You're going to take out your notebook and you're going to write on your notebook A through Z on the side. Maybe you need 2 pages for that, just A to Z on the side of your notebook. You could type this out if you want. So now you have, this is my stick figure list. I'm using the same paper. You have this list of letters, okay, the whole alphabet. We're going to take 3 minutes, and I want you in that 3 minutes to write as many, like go down the list. So for the letter A, what is a descriptive word, like an adjective, right? That starts with the letter A. So I did not think of any in advanced here. I'm like, alluring. Sure, I'm going to put that. Right. And then if you go to down to B, like what's a descriptive word? Bouncy. C. Cold. Right. You get the point. So just take 3 minutes and just write down adjectives from these letters. And we're building our somatic language. About 1 more minute. And let's take a break. So we're just gonna go through each letter. You can write in the chat something for A. And then we can all expand our vocabulary together. This was hard. Acidic, apathy, antsy, abrasive, amped. I put achy. Agile, affirmative, alive. Okay. B. Beautiful. Buzzy, boiling, blue, bubbly, brave, building. Okay. C. Caring, calm, cute, comfortable, crappy, coarse, clarifying, cool, chills, crispy, confident. D. Daring, dizzy, delicate, determined, dull. E. Delightful, diligent, exciting. Ebullient, emphatic, elegant, energized, effervescence, electrifying, equal. Expansive is what I put. F. Fatigued, fearless, funny, fluid, flirty, fuzzy, full, fast, fragile, figurative, fried. What about G? Glowing, good, grimy, gleaming, grounded, growing, goopy, glorious, giddy, grateful, gloomy, glug. That's what I put glug. I don't know why I'm like glug, glug, glug. That's gorgeous, glutted. What about H? We'll just go through a couple more letters for time. Higher, happy, held, hot, heat. Great. I. Inflamed, itchy, intuitive. Another itchy, instinct, intellectual, insular. And one more, J. Jittery, jumpy, joyful, jolly, jiggy, jingle, jazzy, jumbled. I put juicy, jubilant, and jolt, like a jolt. Okay. So wonderful. I love this. Actually, right now I'm like more alert. I feel really bubbly. I feel kind of excited reading these. It's like delightful. I'm like, oh, it's like expanding our somatic vocabulary itself is building relationship with our body. So one more little share before we go into our final exercise, kind of tying it all together. So there was a old psychotherapist, his name was Eugene Genland, and he coined the term the felt sense. Has anyone heard of this term? The felt sense? Yeah. So essentially what Eugene Genland found as he was treating patients with trauma, PTSD, all these different conditions, is he started to notice that some patients really responded well to treatments and some people really didn't respond as well. So he was really curious about this. And what he noticed was that the people who responded better to therapy had what he called a felt sense. So he like, oh, how are you feeling? And they're like, jazzed. No, that's not really the right word. It's like, I feel bubbly, actually. Like there was this ability that he noticed where people who had a greater felt sense of their experience actually responded better to treatments. And so he coined this term as like, how can I cultivate more of a felt sense in people? Because that seems to be really highly correlated with wellness, with nervous system regulation. So just these exercises of like building words, like how might I describe this thing that I'm experiencing in the present moment? And of course, if we're not able to access sensations, we have all the other somatic channels. So we can meet people where they are. And as teachers, we can start to see, especially if you're working one-on-one, but really with anyone, like you're going to start to notice what channels people live in. So a lot of people live in the loud channel. I'm sure you know some people who live in the sensory channel, like they're always describing thing to like the most perfect degree, but maybe they're not super, their emotions aren't super turned online, or they don't have great access to visuals, right? So you can start to use these channels for yourself for sure to build your own capacity. But also, you're going to start to notice, like, oh, these people live in this channel. So maybe some work is to expand this other channel so that they have a more full experience of the present moment. So, with that said, I have this really fun exercise for small groups. And Neve, were you going to say something?
Me?
Yeah, I just saw you
Yeah,
on.
no, I was just going to say around that felt sense guy. We know that people with depression and anxiety tend to have lower interoception. And given that the organs are kind of the seed of emotions, and interoception is the ability to feel what's going on in the organs, that makes a whole lot of sense with this guy finding that the therapy seemed to work better with people who were able to intercept. I don't know if that's a verb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're going to go into small groups, and I'm going to give you all this, I call them scenarios. I'm going to lay out a scenario, and you're going to just when you read the scenario, what I want you to do is track your felt sense. And you're going to have to decide, like, the scenario is going to give you like an inquiry, like what would you do in this scenario? And so what I want you to notice is like kind of track your felt sense, maybe track what nervous system state is coming online a little bit. And then as a group, you can kind of share what you're feeling, what you would do, and kind of get some, it's just like a fun exercise to track how does your nervous system respond in this situation? So the goal is not that there's a right answer or a right way to work through these scenarios. The goal of this exercise is really just to like feel your nervous, like what's happening in your nervous system with this scenario laid out, and then to share it and also hear how other people, what it brings up in other people. So we'll
Do
do
you want a
small group.
similar number of people?
Yes. Yeah. Similar number of people. We'll do 5 minutes in the small group, and then we'll come back and um, share in the big group. And then if there's time, I don't think there's going to be time. I have two scenarios. We'll do one of the two scenarios. So, um, here is I'm going to go straight to the second scenario because I think it's more interesting. You are teaching an all levels movement class. It has a good turnout. And after class, a student approaches you and says they have a question and asks for a moment of your time. They appear very moved by your class and are sharing quite intimate details about their personal life and what they experienced during your class. As the student is chatting, you notice a few other students seemingly wanting your attention as well. What do you notice in your reaction? What might you do? Okay. So I'm going to put that in the chat eventually. I should have had that cut and pasted, but I'll get to it in a moment. Okay.
Or you could take a quick photo of it in your phone before I open the breakout rooms if anybody has their phone with them.
Oh, yeah, here we go. I got it. It's in the
Oh,
chat.
great. Well done.
So 5 minutes in small groups, and then we'll discuss in the full group after.
And obviously those watching the recording, you might just jot it down for yourself.
Are you? All right. So we have a few minutes of session left, and I would just love to hear what you noticed in your body, how you might respond. I'm not as interested in like what you chose to do, but I'm really interested in like how your body is responding to this real world scenario. Yeah. Noel, yeah.
Noelia.
Oh, great.
So it was interesting for like myself and our group, it was a mix. So, you know, at first it was kind of like for me personally, it was kind of like an opening in the chest and just like love and whatnot. But then I noticed, you know, when I saw people waiting around, just like the anxiety and overwhelm starting to kind of build and just feeling that tension in the body.
Yeah. Anyone relate to that? Yeah. Yeah. What else?
Me, there was kind of a panic at this isn't an appropriate space for this, and I don't want this. And it was very much a strong sensation of no, this isn't the place or time for this. So my reaction was protecting myself, I suppose.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like oh, this isn't appropriate. Like a little bit of a flight, but maybe a little more of that fight, like you're being inappropriate, like that kind of fight energy protective, which is super awesome versus Noelia, what she described is like a bit at first of this safe and social, but then a little bit maybe of that anxiety or like flee or maybe fawn. Like my hope is to normalize all of this, just so you know. Like, yeah, it's interesting, right? What else did we notice?
Thought about like probably increased heart rate, and I feel like my eyes would maybe race between the two, and I don't know if that would associate with dilated pupils or not, but I was thinking of like when we talked about the eyes, I'm sure my eyes would be doing something.
Yeah, well, and that's so interesting. Like when there's a bit of this like back and forth, sometimes, and I don't know if this is true, but I'm like, oh, like that freeze, like there's that sympathetic, but maybe this overriding, like, oh, because I'm gonna just stay here. And that can sometimes be reflected in the eyes. Not saying that's what it's happening, but maybe. Trisha, were you gonna say something? I just see you unmuted, that's why.
I wanted to share something about what you said prior about the mantra. So mantras can be hugely beneficial, but our brain kind of calls BS if it doesn't land right, if it feels like that's not where I'm at. So for example, if you are trying to tell yourself, I'm calm, a way that your brain could work with that is I'm learning to be calm, I'm exploring ways to be calm. And then that lets your brain take that in and helps you move toward that.
Yeah, I love that distinction. And I think that's such a powerful way to work with affirmations. Exactly. It's like, oh, if I say I'm calm, but my body, there's something in my body that's being almost like rejected by that, right?
Of course.
Like,
Well, words rejecting it, like I'm not calm. That's bullshit. I can't be calm right now. So being able to say, I want to learn to be calm, or I'm practicing being calm, or what does calm feel like for me right now? Or would it feel like for me right now? So finding other ways to let the brain say, okay, let's try this instead of rejecting it.
yeah, I love and I'm open to the possibility of being calm or yeah. Great. That was great, Brandy. And thanks, Trisha. A really great addition there.
And that's
I
the
think-
way that cognitive behavioral therapy works, which is that, you know, you're trying to give your brain something more neutral than the catastrophic thought, but it can't be something that it doesn't believe. So if it's a sleep exercise for CBT, it can't be I'm awake and I love being awake at 2 a.m. It's got to be I'm awake so that you can get behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool to add the somatic channels into that too. So if it's more of a thought channel, like and you can't, if you have that ruminating thought, like, oh, I'm late, I'm late, I'm late, or whatever the ruminating thought is, you can simply just say, I have a thought that I'm late. And sometimes that can just kind of get you right out of that.
Mm-hmm.
It can just create a little bit of space, right?
Mm.
I must say,
So,
I thought this scenario was a perfect example of where you would fall into fawning.
yeah.
Because while I would be panicking inside, there would be no person there not thinking, oh, yeah, no, I'm really, really interested.
Right.
Even though my somatic impulses would be different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we have these, like I think as teachers, we have, this is my opinion, I think we have a responsibility to build our capacity so that we have more of this choice available. And just like we're always receiving these 11 million bits of information into our nervous system, we're also sharing our nervous system with others too. So others, like the best yoga teachers, again, that's my opinion, and by no means am I perfect. I'm dysregulated probably more often than I would like to admit. But the best gift I can give my students is to come in with this really big capacity and a really big nervous system where the more regulated I can be, which again is not calm all the time. Right? That's not what regulation is. It's not calm all the time. It's space to go into these waves without being bumped into a survival state where I have no choice. Right? So the more I can regulate my system and build my capacity, that's such a gift to those around because that their systems are receiving that information. You might not be consciously aware of it, but that is information that's coming into your field. So it's such a gift.
Yeah.
And human, like we're all like we just aren't going to be in our window of capacity all the time. So like so much compassion for when I come in tired and cranky, and that's maybe some of the energy I'm giving to my students. And often, we all know this as teachers, by the end of class, as a teacher, I'm usually like, oh, wow, I feel so much better. So anyway, we're
Yeah.
right at time, so I really want to respect that. There is homework. There's a video that Neve has uploaded that's required viewing before next week. So please go online and see that. The Discord is available for you to share all your questions and share what you're noticing, just to keep this dialogue going with your fellow neuro nerds. And yeah, I think that's it.
Also a reminder not to touch the quiz until after next week, the first quiz. You'll just get overwhelmed. And a reminder to send me an email if you are happy to have your email shared with others, which might be helpful for those of you who don't want another app on your phone, don't want to be in Discord. But if we are sharing emails, I've had one email from one of you that it's not spam. We're not advertising our work on Discord or email. That it is about conversing about the content of the course and, your experience as a teacher and help you might want, or experiences you might want to share. Any questions on an organizational level? That kind of stuff? Fabulous. Thank you so much, Diana.
See you next week.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye. Everybody's flicking around the screen. I'm trying to get a chance to.
I'm gonna get a bit of water.
All right, lovey.
Oh, and I think you're still recording, so we can end that.
Bye, Jennifer.
Yeah, I just need to get water in a